Hello, welcome to Nothing is Written, a Lawrence of Arabia notebook. I'm Neil Romanek, I'm a writer, and this is my ongoing study of Lawrence of Arabia, David Lean's 1962 masterpiece. And I've decided I am going to do the whole movie. I had wondered if I was going to do selected scenes, kind of how I might do it. I would love to do commentary with the video, along with the video, but in terms of rights, it's a little problematic. So I am just going to stick to the podcast format for now. Keep it audio, which should hopefully engage your imagination and your brains. And also it will, rather than having to look at stuff, you will just be listening to my voice and be thinking about the movie. Then you can actually go back and watch the movie or watch the scenes we're talking about. And you won't be distracted by looking at pictures and images. So there are a lot of great podcasts out there. There's the minute by minute podcast, which I love, where somebody goes through a movie and each week or each episode of the podcast is another minute of the film. And that becomes the spur for the conversation that takes place. Those are great. If you haven't heard any of those, there's dynamite ones. There's a Plan 9 from Outer Space one, which I'm just over the moon about. I've just started listening to that. It's so good. But I'm not going to do that. We're going to do this scene by scene. And we want to do that because we're trying to talk about the story and story structure and themes. And I want those talks to be coherent about a single movement or a single scene or a single thematic element in the movie. If you start breaking it up into minutes, it becomes very artificial. And it's kind of like if you were talking about a painting and you're like, I'm going to do this 3 by 3 centimeter square on the upper left. Then I'm going to move over another 3 centimeters and another 3 centimeters. It just gets weird. So I'm going to do scene by scenes. And today we've talked about music. We've talked about the overture. Today I'm starting with the title sequence. So we're just going to talk about the title sequence today. So there you are. You're in the cinema. Fade in on the Columbia Pictures logo. This music starts. It's a little echo of the overture. Something big and vaguely threatening is growing over this Columbia logo. And it's the first time anybody would have seen the Columbia logo in Super Panavision 70, which is what the movie was shot in. And as soon as you see that logo, it's your 1962 and you're sitting there and you see that logo come up in that format, it really would have been gorgeous. And with that music, that dum, dum, dum music, you would have been thinking, oh, this is amazing. I'm in for something really, really special here. Immediately, you see and feel that you're in for something different, a very new experience. So the title sequence is all in one single shot, one single high angle shot of pavement there. Looks like it's probably a driveway. And we see a motorcycle. So the title's open on this bird's eye view of a motorcycle. And if we know anything about Lawrence's life, T.E. Lawrence, and the history of it, we know the motorcycle has got these dark implications because Lawrence died in a motorcycle accident in the Dorset countryside in May 1935. We're not going to get too much into history and stuff, but I'll throw in a few facts here throughout the series. May 1935, he died in a motorcycle accident. So as soon as we see that, if we know anything about Lawrence, and people in 1962 would have known more about him than we do today. We'd see that motorcycle and we're like, oh, I get it. Motorcycle, Lawrence's death. And of course, anyway, that motorcycle itself, it's a lone motorcycle we see first. The motorcycle is always in movies is the symbol of a loner, somebody who keeps themselves. It's almost a cliche. And of course, Lawrence is the supreme loner, is really, really incapable of forming intimate relationships with other people. And that the Lawrence of Arabia title comes up. And right away, we see somebody enter from screen right. This is Lawrence. We're looking down on him. We don't necessarily know it's Lawrence. We kind of suspect it's probably Lawrence. He walks up to the motorcycle. He kind of sizes up the motorcycle like it's a living thing, kind of walks around it. And there's oil spots there on the driveway beside the motorcycle. And these oil spots there, it's a great little detail. It kind of tells you that the motorcycle has been in this spot for a while. It tells you a bit about habits. And that's an important thing in introducing a character. You want to get, what are the character's habits? What is that they call the first act routine? What is that character's routine? And we see that motorcycle there, we see those oil spots, and we know, okay, this motorcycle, it's been there for a while. This is something that's happened a lot. And those oil spots as well, sort of symbolically, that's Arabia, isn't it? Because after World War I, all of that oil from the Middle East was absorbed by the British Empire. So those oil spots, quite interesting, it's very subtle, but those oil spots are literally pieces of Arabia sprinkled across the pavement. So the first thing we see Lawrence doing is filling up the motorcycle with gasoline. And again, it's just a little thing, but every little detail in a David Lean movie, especially in a David Lean Robert Bolt movie, nothing is there accidentally. Every choice is made deliberately. The fact that we start out with gasoline is significant because what does gasoline do? It burns. And this movie is a lot about burning. So it's flammable gasoline. And fire, heat, burning, and Lawrence's relationship to fire, heat, and burning, both physically, in reality, and then maybe more importantly, figuratively, emotionally, and symbolically. That's one of the film's central themes. And we're going to see that again and again and again. Heat, burning, fire. So we don't see his face. As we said, it's just this bird eye view of this guy. And we said, well, it's probably Lawrence. We're not sure. But in a way, it's this bird's eye view that we're looking down, studying him. When you're in that bird's eye view, you're studying something. You're detached. And this also tells us a bit that we're going to be studying somebody in this movie. This is going to be a study, an examination. But we see this ordinary man. And it's an ordinary man. It could be just anybody at the opening of this movie. And that being just an ordinary man and just anybody are these two identities or these demons that Lawrence fights with throughout the movie, where he is desperate to be an ordinary man. And at the same time, that's his greatest horror, is just being just anybody or just an ordinary man. And he's caught between those two things. And we've come to see this movie, Lawrence of Arabia, about this great hero, this extraordinary person. And we see at the start of the movie, just an ordinary man. He's almost a cipher. He's almost anybody. We don't even see his face. So in the titles, you'll note the screenplay, probably in the version you're watching or have watched, the screenplay credit has been changed from the original. In the original cut of the film, it listed Robert Bolt as the sole writer. And that was changed, though, in the digital restoration of the movie in 2002, I think. And Michael Wilson was added to the credits. And Michael Wilson was one of the great screenwriters of the 1950s and 60s. He wrote Lawrence of Arabia, or not Lawrence of Arabia, he wrote Bridge on the River Kwai before Lawrence of Arabia with David Lean. But he was blacklisted, so a lot of the movies that he'd worked on, these great movies and this great work, nobody really knew about. Now, this was all after the blacklist, after the blacklist had been broken by Kirk Douglas on Spartacus. And Kirk Douglas hired Dalton Trombone, said his name staying on it, and to hell with you people. Good job, Kirk. Michael Wilson isn't on the film, and also Carl Foreman, who worked on the movie, are not on the film, I think for a couple of reasons. First of all, their work isn't really on screen. Almost everything that appears on screen is Robert Bolt's. Virtually nothing is left over from Michael Wilson's and Carl Foreman's. And also, it was just probably David Lean and the producer Sam Spiegel saying, no, we just want Robert. That's how we want it. Tough crap. That's the way we're doing it. So it's great to see Michael Wilson's name on there. His work doesn't really appear in this film, but in terms of justice for writers and recognizing the collaborations that go into making a movie over many, many years, it's good to see it on there. The purist in me thinks, no, keep it exactly how it was in 1962. But I think there's also something important and just and right about including Michael Wilson on it too. Now, in Robert Bolt's original screenplay, the scene was written as a low-angle shot where we see only the motorcycle and Lawrence's legs. So it's a similar kind of thing where we see him, he could be just anybody, and we just see his legs working on the motorcycle. So every detail we see in this movie, and certainly in this opening, several scenes in the opening sequence as well, which we're going to look at in the coming weeks, is about Lawrence's character. It's one of the great introductions to a character. Just every single scene gives you something new about Lawrence. And Lawrence is so complicated and complex that you'll get one specific thing about his character in one scene and then something completely contradictory in the next. So in this title sequence, you see just the way Peter O'Toole is carrying the gas can and how meticulous and careful he is about it. So he goes out, he opens up the gas can, and he opens the gas tank on the bike. He sets the gas cap down. Everything is just meticulous, methodical, deliberate. It's almost very zen. And all this methodical care he takes in filling up the motorcycle's gas tank is actually set up for what happens at the very end of the scene. So what he does, he spills a little bit of gas onto the chrome of the motorcycle, and the chrome is very shiny and reflective, and Lawrence could probably see his reflection in it, and he probably has looked at his reflection in that, because we see him throughout the movie. There's several shiny objects he's looking at his reflection in throughout the rest of the movie. So he spilled a little bit of gasoline there on the gas tank. No problem, no rush. He walks slowly back away with the gas can, out of frame. He returns with a rag to wipe off the gas he spilled. He actually kind of walks all that distance, comes back with a rag, and he really puts some effort into it, really wants it clean. He likes things clean. Whoever this guy is that we're watching from above really likes things clean. It's very particular. That's really bothering him, that little tiny bit of gas that he spilled on there. So he finally cleans it to his satisfaction, maybe so he can see his reflection. And then what does he do? All that meticulous care, he just shucks the rag away. It's one of my favorite moments, really, in the first part of this movie, is this careful care. And then he just throws it away. And he puts on his goggles and gets on the motorcycle, and off he goes. And so why does he throw the rag away? It's this great, first of all, it's just this great contradiction of somebody who's obsessed with control and doing things properly, and then chaos. And who cares? This impulsive, just throw it away, who cares? And I wonder, one of my things, I wonder even if if there's a suggestion of a suicide in that this is the day where he cleans the motorcycle as he normally would, but he's not coming back. He's not coming back to clean up anything else. He just throws it away and off he goes. And I'm wondering if there's a suggestion that this could be a suicide. There's nothing in the text really about that, but that's sort of one of the things I kind of get out of that. So then he gets on the motorcycle, puts on the goggles, which have been dangling off of the handlebars, cut to his feet starting the motorcycle, and the movie starts, and the motorcycle goes off, and we're off on our adventure. We tilt up to follow the motorcycle away, and we are clearly not in Arabia. We're in the opposite of Arabia. We're in the British countryside. Kind of going, I thought this movie was about Arabia. No, British countryside. And the movie starts. Our journey starts, our adventure starts, our trip starts. So there's a great analysis of the title sequence with a lot of extra historical info at the Art of the Title. If you haven't been to Art of the Title, it is a superb website. That's artofthetitle.com. And they go into great detail about the history of movie titling, about specific films and how they were titled, how the titles were done, some of the artists and personalities in film titling throughout history. It's a great website. They also have a Patreon too, so go give them some money at their Patreon, which is at patreon.com/Art of the Title. I'm plugging them because I love them. They're really great. They are a force for good in the film and TV industry. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please leave a comment wherever you can, down there on wherever you may be available, wherever there's comments. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment down there and a like. If you're listening to this on a podcast, leave the comments and likes appropriately. And also leave a review. It's always great to get a positive review. And you can also email me directly at nromanek, that's NROMANEK, at au-works.com. Thanks very much, and talk to you next time.